Think you know everything about the boy genius who skipped 6 grades? From secret romantic connections between cast members to recycled TV sets and missing episodes that Disney won't stream, Smart Guy harbored some truly bizarre behind-the-scenes secrets. The beloved 90s sitcom about 10-year-old TJ Henderson had more drama, weird coincidences, and surprising facts than you'd ever imagine from a Disney Channel rerun. Fact 1. Same sets as Boy Meets World. When Smart Guy premiered in 1997, eagle-eyed viewers might have experienced an odd sense of déjà vu while watching the pilot episode. And for good reason. The production team made the unusual decision to film the very first episode using the exact same house and school sets that had been constructed for the popular ABC sitcom Boy Meets World, which was still airing at the time on a completely different network. This meant that 10-year-old genius TJ Henderson was literally walking through the same hallways where Corey Matthews had been learning life lessons, and the Henderson family was having dinner in what was essentially a redressed version of the Matthews family kitchen. The classroom where TJ first impressed his high school teachers was the identical room where Mr. Feeney had been dispensing wisdom to middle schoolers on the other show. What makes this situation even more bizarre is that Boy Meets World was an ABC production while Smart Guy aired on the WB, meaning two competing networks were essentially sharing the same fictional universe without anyone planning it that way. The sets were located at Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, where both shows happened to be filming, making this recycling arrangement more about convenience and budget savings than any creative vision. The set sharing was only temporary, as Smart Guy quickly moved to its own custom-built sets after the pilot episode. But the damage was already done in terms of creating this weird crossover connection. Years later, the same Piedmont High School establishing shot would appear again in yet another Disney series called Cory in the House, making this particular piece of television real estate one of the most recycled locations in sitcom history. For fans who grew up watching both shows in reruns, spotting these identical sets creates an almost surreal experience, as if TJ Henderson and Corey Matthews existed in parallel dimensions of the same physical space. Fact 2. Taj Mowry pitched his own show at age 9. Long before Smart Guy ever made it to television screens, 9-year-old Taj Mowry was already working the entertainment industry like a seasoned professional, personally pitching his own sitcom concept to network executives in what might be one of the most adorable power moves in Hollywood history. This wasn't just a child's fantasy either, as Mowry was actively leading pitch meetings and campaigning for a television vehicle that would let him be the star of his own show. The young actor's approach to these high-stakes business meetings was both strategic and hilariously childlike, as he would bring a toy cell phone into the boardrooms and sneakily push the ring button during presentations, then interrupt the adults by saying, "Hold on, guys. I've got a call," before pretending to take an important phone conversation. Mowry later admitted that he was completely hamming it up during these meetings, knowing that his youthful charm and precocious confidence were his biggest selling points in getting executives to take his ideas seriously. This wasn't just random ambition from a kid who wanted to be on TV, as Mowry came from a family that understood the entertainment business, with his older twin sisters Tia and Tamara having already successfully used a similar strategy to get their own show Sister greenlit just 3 years earlier. The family had learned that sometimes the best way to get a project off the ground was to have the talent personally involved in the development process from the very beginning. Mowry's persistence in theatrical pitch meetings eventually caught the attention of producer Irene Dreyer, who was known as a kid talent expert and had previously discovered his sisters as well as future stars like Dylan and Cole Sprouse. Dreyer was charmed by the young actor's determination and business savvy, and she became instrumental in helping develop what would eventually become Smart Guy, proving that sometimes the most unconventional approaches to Hollywood networking can actually work. Fact 3. Stars real-life romance with guest star. While Smart Guy was busy entertaining audiences with TJ Henderson's fictional adventures in high school, the show's star Taj Mowry was experiencing his own very real coming-of-age story behind the scenes through a relationship with actress Naya Rivera, who made guest appearances on the series during the late 1990s. What started as a professional connection between two young actors working on the same Disney Channel show eventually blossomed into a 4-year romantic relationship that Mowry would later describe as foundational to understanding of love and relationships. The two actors actually first met when they were just 4 years old during a print advertising photo shoot, where their mothers had become friends, but their romantic connection didn't develop until years later when Rivera guest starred on Smart Guy and they reconnected as teenagers. Between 2000 and 2004, Mowry and Rivera dated on and off throughout their adolescent years, sharing what Mowry has called his first experiences with love, intimacy, and heartbreak during some of the most formative years of their lives. Rivera later wrote about their relationship in her 2016 memoir, revealing that Mowry had been her first kiss and describing their teenage romance as being like best friends who happened to be dating. Even after their romantic relationship ended, the two remained close friends, with Rivera maintaining connections to Mowry's famous sisters Tia and Tamara as well, and she even helped the twins find an apartment when they were having housing troubles years later. When Rivera tragically died in a drowning accident at Lake Peru in California in July 2020, Mowry publicly shared his grief in an emotional social media tribute, calling her his first everything, and admitting that no woman had ever measured up to what she had given him or how she had made him feel. He revealed that he had never stopped loving her and had always hoped they might reconnect someday, showing just how deeply their teenage relationship had affected him throughout his adult life. Fact 4. Destiny's Child's first TV appearance ever. Smart Guy managed to capture lightning in a bottle when the show featured what actress Essence Atkins claims was Destiny's Child's very first television appearance ever, bringing all 4 original members of the group to the series during a pivotal moment in their career when they were still unknowns trying to make it in the music industry. The Season 3 episode titled A Date with Destiny aired in November 1998 and featured Beyonce Knowles, Kelly Rowland, LaToya Luckett, and Latavia Roberson appearing as themselves in a storyline where they were holding auditions for backup dancers. In the episode, the girl group causes a temporary rift between TJ Henderson and his older sister Yvette, when Destiny's Child unexpectedly chooses the 10-year-old genius to be their backup dancer instead of her, leading to sibling drama that gets resolved by the end of the episode. The young members of Destiny's Child were genuinely impressed by Taj Mowry's dancing skills during the fictional audition scenes, with LaToya Luckett's character commenting that his performance was tight, while Beyonce and Latavia clarified that they were specifically talking about the cute kid when Marcus and Mo tried to take credit for the compliment. What makes this appearance even more remarkable is that it happened right at the beginning of Destiny's Child's rise to fame, as their debut album had only been released earlier that year, and they hadn't yet achieved the massive global success that would make them one of the best-selling girl groups of all time. The timing was perfect for both the show and the group, as Smart Guy got to feature rising stars while Destiny's Child gained valuable television exposure during their early promotional period. The collaboration extended beyond just the episode itself, as Taj Mowry later appeared in a special music video for Destiny's Child's hit song No 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 Part 2, which was featured on their 1999 album, The Writings on the Wall, creating an additional connection between the young actor and the future superstars that would last long after the show ended. Fact 5. One episode missing from Disney Blues. When Disney Plus launched in November 2019 with Smart Guy as part of its nostalgic television lineup, dedicated fans who binged through the entire series quickly noticed that one episode was completely missing from the streaming service, creating a puzzling gap in the show's otherwise complete collection. The absent episode is Don't Do That Thing You Do from Season 1, which originally aired in April 1997, and its disappearance from the platform has everything to do with the complex world of music licensing rights that often plague older television shows when they transition to streaming services. The episode centers around TJ joining his older brother Marcus's band called Macadocious when their regular keyboard player breaks his finger, leading to a storyline that heavily features the band performing music throughout the episode. The specific problem lies with a song called I Don't Know Why, which was performed by Jason Weaver's character Marcus during a Battle of the Bands sequence and was actually taken from Weaver's real-life 1996 EP titled Stay With Me that he had released as a recording artist outside of his acting career. When Disney Plus was preparing the Smart Guy catalog for streaming, they apparently couldn't secure the necessary licensing rights to include Weaver's song in the digital distribution, which created an expensive legal obstacle that was easier to solve by simply excluding the entire episode rather than paying potentially significant fees for music clearance. This situation is surprisingly common in the streaming era, as many older shows face similar challenges when songs that were cleared for original broadcast and home video release require separate and often more expensive licenses for digital streaming platforms. The missing episode creates a noticeable numbering discrepancy on Disney Plus, where all subsequent episodes from Season 1 are listed one number ahead of their original positions, making "Don't Do That Thing You Do" the only Smart Guy episode that modern audiences can't easily access through legitimate streaming, though dedicated fans have found ways to watch it through other means online. Fact 6. The school set's triple life. The establishing shot of Piedmont High School from Smart Guy has enjoyed one of the most successful careers in television history, appearing across 3 different shows, spanning more than a decade, and earning the distinction of being one of the most recycled pieces of school architecture in Disney's catalog. What started as a simple exterior shot for the fictional high school where T.J. Henderson attended classes alongside his older siblings became a surprisingly versatile piece of television real estate that producers kept returning to whenever they needed a generic American high school setting. The building's television career began with Boy Meets World on ABC, where it served as the exterior for John Adams High School, the institution where Corey Matthews and his friends navigated their teenage years throughout the show's later seasons. When Smart Guy needed an establishing shot for Piedmont High School, the production team simply reused the same building exterior, creating an unintentional connection between the 2 shows that aired on completely different networks during the same time period in the late 1990s. The building's 3rd and final television appearance came years later when Disney Channel launched Corey in the House in 2007, a spin-off series focusing on Corey Baxter's adventures after moving to Washington, D.C. Even though the new show was supposed to take place in the nation's capital, the producers once again turned to the same reliable establishing shot to represent yet another fictional high school, demonstrating just how useful this particular building had become for television production purposes. This triple recycling created a bizarre situation where the same physical building theoretically existed in 3 different fictional universes, serving students in Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., and whatever unnamed city Smart Guy was supposed to represent. Despite the show being filmed in California, the repeated use of this exterior shot highlights how television production often relies on practical considerations like budget and convenience, rather than strict attention to geographic continuity, turning one anonymous building into a surprisingly important piece of Disney Channel history. Fact 7. Omar Gooding's Cuba connection hidden in plain sight. Despite the fact that Morris Mo Tibbs was one of the most popular characters on Smart Guy, most viewers had no idea they were watching the younger brother of one of Hollywood's biggest stars, as Omar Gooding's famous family connection to Academy Award-winning actor Cuba Gooding Jr. was hiding in plain sight throughout the show's entire run. The 2 brothers shared not only an obvious physical resemblance and the same distinctive last name that appeared in the show's credits every week, but they were both actively working in the entertainment industry during the late 1990s when Smart Guy was at its peak popularity. Cuba Gooding Jr. was at the height of his fame during Smart Guy's original run from 1997 to 1999, having just won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his role in Jerry Maguire in 1997, the same year Smart Guy premiered. While Cuba was making headlines and becoming a household name through major Hollywood films, his younger brother Omar was quietly building his own television career, playing the lovably dim but loyal best friend who practically lived at the Henderson house and provided much of the show's comic relief. The family connection becomes even more interesting when you consider that both brothers were following in the footsteps of their father, Cuba Gooding Sr., who was the lead singer for the soul group The Main Ingredient, meaning the entire Gooding family was already established in the entertainment world long before either son became famous. Omar had actually been working in television since he was a teenager, serving as one of the original hosts of Nickelodeon's Wild and Crazy Kids from 1990 to 1992, giving him several years of experience before landing his breakout role on Smart Guy. While Cuba was commanding millions of dollars per film and walking red carpets, Omar was content to build his career through television work, appearing in shows like Hangin' with Miss Cooper before becoming a series regular on Smart Guy, proving that talent definitely ran in the Gooding family, even if the brothers chose different paths to success. Fact 8. Living room set changed 3 times. The Henderson family living room underwent such dramatic transformations throughout Smart Guy's 3-season run that attentive viewers could practically use the set design as a way to determine which season they were watching, as the production team completely redesigned the family's main gathering space multiple times with changes so significant that the front door literally moved to different sides of the room. These weren't minor adjustments or simple redecorating choices, but rather complete overhauls that altered the fundamental layout and flow of what was supposed to be the same family home throughout the entire series. During the show's first season, the Henderson family surprisingly didn't even have a living room set at all, with most of the domestic scenes taking place exclusively in the kitchen area, creating an unusual situation where viewers never saw the family relaxing together in a traditional living space. When the production team finally added a living room set for Season 2, they positioned the front door at center stage, with a window nearby, while the stairs leading to the bedrooms and the kitchen doorway were located at stage right, creating a specific traffic pattern for how the actors moved through the space during scenes. The most dramatic change came in Season 3, when the set designers decided to completely flip the layout and move the front door from center stage all the way to stage left, fundamentally altering how characters entered and exited the Henderson home, and changing the entire visual dynamic of family scenes. While the kitchen set remained relatively consistent throughout these changes, the living room transformations were accompanied by modifications to other areas as well, including the removal of back stairs that had previously provided access to the bedrooms. Interestingly, the only set that remained completely unchanged throughout the entire series was the bedroom shared by TJ and Marcus, suggesting that the production team was willing to experiment with the common areas of the Henderson house, but wanted to maintain consistency in the more intimate family spaces where the brothers had their private conversations and sibling bonding moments. Fact 9. Star actually wore religious jewelry in every episode. Throughout Smart Guy's entire 3-season run, Taj Mowry quietly incorporated his personal faith into his character's wardrobe by wearing a WWJD wristband in nearly every single episode, creating a subtle but consistent detail that reflected the young actor's own religious beliefs rather than any scripted character development. The letters stood for "What Would Jesus Do?", which was a popular Christian phrase during the 1990s that appeared on various pieces of jewelry and accessories as a way for people to remind themselves to consider their moral choices through a religious lens. What makes this detail particularly interesting is that Mowry apparently made the decision to wear this wristband as part of his personal expression rather than as a costume choice dictated by the show's wardrobe department, meaning that T.J. Henderson's consistent accessory was actually a reflection of Taj Mowry's own spiritual life bleeding through into his fictional character. The wristband became such a regular part of his on-screen appearance that it essentially became an unofficial part of TJ's character design, even though the show never explicitly addressed the religious significance of the jewelry or incorporated faith-based storylines into the scripts. This religious accessory appeared not only during his Smart Guy episodes, but also carried over into some of Mowry's other acting roles during the same time period, suggesting that wearing the WWJD wristband was an important personal practice for the young actor rather than just a character choice for one specific show. The consistency of this detail demonstrates how child actors sometimes bring elements of their real personalities and beliefs into their performances, even when those elements aren't necessarily written into the script or required by the production. The wristband's presence throughout the series creates an interesting layer for viewers who notice this small detail, as it represents one of the ways that Taj Mowry's authentic self merged with his fictional character, making TJ Henderson feel more genuine and relatable, while also reflecting the actor's commitment to his personal values during his formative years in the entertainment industry. Fact 10. Cast members missing from their own show. In one of the most surprising attendance records in television history, the two actors who played the most prominent characters on Smart Guy actually managed to miss episodes of their own show, with Taj Mowry completely absent from the Season 3 episode Get a Job, and Omar Gooding nowhere to be found during A Little Knowledge, creating the bizarre situation where the show's title character and one of its most popular supporting characters simply didn't appear in episodes that aired during the series' regular run. Taj Mowry's absence from Get a Job is particularly notable because TJ Henderson was not only the main character but also the genius kid that the entire show was built around, making his complete disappearance from an episode almost unthinkable for a series that depended so heavily on his character's interactions with his family and classmates. The episode instead focused on other members of the Henderson family and their workplace adventures, demonstrating just how flexible the show's writing team had to be when dealing with the scheduling challenges that come with working with young actors who had other commitments and obligations. Omar Gooding's missing episode, A Little Knowledge, meant that Mo Tibbs, Marcus's best friend who practically lived at the Henderson house and provided much of the show's comic relief, was simply absent from the storyline without any explanation, forcing the writers to create plots that didn't rely on his character's usual involvement in Marcus's schemes and adventures. This created an unusual dynamic for viewers who were accustomed to seeing Mo as a constant presence in the Henderson family's daily life. The Perfect Attendance Award for Smart Guy goes to Jason Weaver, who played Marcus, Essence Atkins, who played Yvette, and John Marshall Jones, who played Father Floyd Henderson, as these three actors are the only cast members who managed to appear in every single one of the show's 51 episodes. Across its 3-season run, their consistency helped maintain the show's family dynamic even when other key characters were unavailable, proving their importance to the series' overall stability and continuity. Fact 11. The voice connection to Kim Possible. When Disney Channel was developing the animated series Kim Possible in the early 2000s, the casting directors made a very deliberate choice to bring Taj Mowry on board as the voice of Wade Lode, the 10-year-old computer genius who provided technical support to the show's teenage spy heroine, specifically because they wanted to capitalize on his established reputation as a child prodigy from Smart Guy. This casting decision was essentially Disney's way of transferring Mowry's successful portrayal of TJ Henderson directly into the animated world, allowing him to play virtually the same character archetype, but in a completely different fictional universe. Wade Lode shared remarkable similarities with TJ Henderson beyond just their shared genius-level intellects, as both characters were young boys who used their exceptional intelligence to help older teenagers navigate complicated situations, whether those involved high school social dynamics or international espionage missions. The voice casting was so intentional that it represented one of the most direct character connections between two different Disney Channel properties, creating a kind of unofficial continuity between the live-action and animated worlds of the network's programming. Mowry's transition from live-action television to voice acting proved to be seamless, as his experience playing a precocious young genius had already given him the perfect training for bringing Wade Lode's personality to life through voice work alone. The character of Wade was designed as a behind-the-scenes support system who rarely appeared on screen physically but whose voice and technical expertise were crucial to Kim Possible's success, making Mowry's vocal performance essential to the show's storytelling. This casting choice also demonstrated Disney's confidence in Mowry's ability to essentially play the same type of character across different mediums and formats, suggesting that his portrayal of TJ Henderson had been so successful and memorable that the network wanted to continue benefiting from his established persona as the go-to actor for brilliant young characters who could outsmart adults and solve complex problems with ease. Fact 12. Essence Atkins only 10 years younger than TV dad. One of the most awkward casting decisions in Smart Guy's production history involved the age gap between John Marshall Jones and Essence Atkins, who played father and daughter Floyd and Yvette Henderson respectively, despite the fact that in real life Jones was only 10 years older than the actress who was supposed to be his teenage child. This minimal age difference created a situation where Floyd Henderson would have theoretically become a father at the impossibly young age of 10 years old, making their on-screen family relationship completely implausible from a biological standpoint. John Marshall Jones was born in 1962, while Essence Atkins was born in 1972, meaning that when Smart Guy premiered in 1997, Jones was 35 years old playing the father of a character portrayed by a 25-year-old actress who was supposed to be a high school student. The casting directors apparently prioritized finding actors who could convincingly portray their respective character ages rather than ensuring that the mathematical reality of their family relationships would make any sense whatsoever. This age gap issue becomes even more pronounced when you consider that Yvette was supposed to be the oldest of 3 children, meaning that Floyd would have had to start having children as a preteen in order for the family timeline to work out correctly. The show never addressed or acknowledged this biological impossibility, instead relying on the actors' performances and the audience's willingness to suspend disbelief about the Henderson family's chronologically challenged existence. The situation highlights how television casting often prioritizes chemistry and acting ability over realistic age differences, especially in family sitcoms where the focus is on comedic situations rather than strict adherence to believable family dynamics. Despite this glaring age gap issue, both Jones and Atkins delivered convincing performances that sold their father-daughter relationship to audiences who were presumably too entertained by the show's humor to calculate the mathematical problems with the Henderson family tree. Fact 13. Jason Weaver's Lion King connection. While Smart Guy viewers were watching Jason Weaver portray the underachieving Marcus Henderson who struggled with his grades and spent most of his time chasing girls and avoiding homework, few realized they were actually looking at one of the most recognizable voices in Disney animation history, as Weaver had provided the singing voice for young Simba in the studio's 1994 blockbuster film The Lion King. This meant that the same person who sang beloved songs like I Just Can't Wait to Be King and Hakuna Matata was simultaneously playing a character who could barely pass his high school classes and needed his genius younger brother to help him with basic academic tasks. The irony of this casting becomes even more apparent when you consider that The Lion King was one of Disney's most successful and culturally significant animated films of all time, grossing over $900 million worldwide and becoming a defining piece of entertainment for an entire generation of children who grew up in the 1990s. Weaver's vocal performance as young Simba was a crucial part of the film's emotional impact and musical success, making him an integral contributor to one of Disney's crown jewel properties. What makes this connection particularly fascinating is that Smart Guy was also a Disney production, meaning that the studio had one of their own animation superstars working as a regular cast member on one of their television shows. Yet this connection was never promoted or highlighted as a selling point for the series. Weaver's transition from providing the voice for a lion prince destined for greatness to playing a teenager who represented the complete opposite of academic achievement created an amusing contrast that would have been lost on most viewers who didn't recognize his distinctive voice. The timing of these projects also creates an interesting overlap in Weaver's career, as The Lion King's massive success in 1994 helped establish him as a valuable Disney performer just a few years before Smart Guy premiered in 1997, making his casting as Marcus Henderson a case of Disney keeping talented performers within their entertainment family. Fact 14. Show tackled online predators before it was cool. Smart Guy demonstrated remarkable foresight when it aired the episode Strangers on the Net in 1998, tackling the serious topic of online child predators and internet safety at a time when most people were still figuring out how to use email. and the World Wide Web was considered a novelty rather than an essential part of daily life. The episode featured TJ and his friend Karen being contacted by a serial child predator in a chat room designed for kids, creating a storyline that was both educational and genuinely frightening in its realistic portrayal of how online dangers could affect young people. What makes this episode even more significant is that it aired years before internet safety became a mainstream concern for parents and educators, as most families in the late 1990s were just beginning to get their first home computers and dial-up internet connections. The show's writers were essentially predicting a problem that wouldn't become widely recognized or discussed until several years later, when high-speed internet access became more common and social media platforms started connecting children with strangers on a much larger scale. Disney Channel's initial reaction to the episode was to ban it from their rerun rotation, apparently considering the subject matter too mature or frightening for their target audience of children and families. However, the network eventually reversed this decision after recognizing the important educational value of the episode's internet safety message, acknowledging that the show had created a valuable teaching tool rather than inappropriate content that needed to be hidden from viewers. The episode's educational impact was so significant that Disney Educational Productions actually released Strangers on the Net on VHS specifically for use in schools, allowing teachers to use the Smart Guy storyline as a way to educate students about protecting themselves online and recognizing potentially dangerous situations in chat rooms and other internet spaces. This transformation from banned episode to educational resource demonstrates how ahead of its time Smart Guy was in addressing digital age concerns that would only become more relevant as technology continued to evolve. Fact 15. Moe's backflip stunt double secret. In one of the most obvious and amusing production blunders in Smart Guy history, the Season 2 episode, The Dating Game, features a moment where Moe Tibbs performs an impressive backflip after being kissed on the cheek by Yvette, but the stunt work was handled so poorly that viewers can clearly see that Omar Gooding was replaced by a stunt double who looked nothing like the character he was supposed to be portraying. The continuity error is particularly glaring because Moe was established throughout the series as a muscular and heavyset character who worked out regularly and took pride in his physical strength, while the stunt performer was noticeably slimmer and had a completely different body type. The scene occurs after Moe defends Yvette's honor when the annoying character Dion pushes up on her yet again, leading to Yvette giving Moe a grateful kiss on the cheek that prompts his celebratory athletic display. However, the moment Moe begins his backflip, it becomes immediately obvious to anyone paying attention that a different person is performing the stunt, as the substitute performer lacks Omar Gooding's distinctive build and muscular frame that had been consistently established as part of Moe's character throughout the show's run. What makes this production mistake even more noticeable is that Moe's physical strength and athletic ability were actually important character traits that had been mentioned and demonstrated in multiple episodes, making his ability to perform impressive physical feats, like backflips, entirely believable within the context of the show. The problem wasn't that the character couldn't realistically do a backflip, but rather that the production team failed to find a stunt double who could convincingly match Omar Gooding's appearance during the athletic sequence. This type of obvious stunt double substitution was relatively common in television production during the 1990s, when budgets were often tight and post-production editing capabilities were more limited than they would become in later decades, but the Moe backflip scene stands out as a particularly egregious example of a continuity error that somehow made it through the entire editing and approval process to air on television.